Shalom, this is day 183 of this war with Hamas. And it's also, today marks 6 months since the beginning of this conflict, October 7th. I say conflict because this war has been going on for many, many years. And according to New York Times, according to TASS News, according to the IDF and other sources, we've had more than 12,000 rockets launched from Gaza into Israel since October 7th, because before that, they were launching rockets. And one thing that is not known by a lot of people is that out of those 12,000 or more rockets, 2,000 of these rockets, 2,000 of these rockets that were launched landed in their own territory. And a lot of times they kill their own people. And so these deaths, them killing their own people, are added to the deaths that, that Israel caused in this war. And so this is not reported that they kill their own people. On October 7th alone, there were 3,000 rockets launched from Gaza into Israel. And just to put that in context, in the year 2014, there was a war with Hamas, which lasted 50 days. And in those 50 days, they launched 4,000 rockets. But in this case, in a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, October 7th, they launched 3,000 rockets, which is quite enormous, quite a lot. Now, a lot of these rockets also are launched from civilian areas, such as hospitals, schools, mosques, and cultural centers, and obviously also from UNRWA, the UNRWA offices, UNRWA buildings, and a lot of these rockets also land in open spaces here in Israel, thank God, and but many of them are intercepted by our Iron Dome and other defense systems that they've come up with. They've had to come up with defensive systems here in Israel, and so this is these are kind of crazy figures. And October 7th, there were 1,300 deaths, 200 were abducted, and it was kind of like a genocide, so to speak. The world is accusing Israel of genocide, but this was genocide. Large populations of these towns around Gaza, around the Gaza border, the population, a big part of their population was completely killed. So terrorists invaded. They broke through the fence, and they came in vehicles. They came in walking. They came in by bicycle, motorcycles, by air, by sea, and they invaded roughly about 24 villages around the Gaza area, but 10 of them were completely taken over by Hamas. And they burned houses. They were shooting like crazy, and they killed many people, and they burned many people, and they beheaded many people, including little babies. Some babies were found burned in ovens, which is ridiculous. And it's like, it's unheard of. This is massacre. This was a massacre. And so then we talk about the Nova Festival, where it was a music festival just a few kilometers away from Gaza, and there they found 260 bodies that were killed or raped, or so many terrible things that they did to these people. Let me see here. Oh, I lost my picture. Okay. So now let's talk about the deaths in this war. Israel's being accused of killing 30,000 people. The figures are ridiculous. The figures come from Hamas. You can call it whatever you want, the Ministry of Health or whatever. This is all controlled by Hamas, and these figures are given, and everybody, all the media outlets quote them as if they were like, this is exactly what happened. You can't rely on these figures. I'll give you an example. When Israel supposedly killed or bombed the hospital, Al Shifa hospital inside Gaza, and within seconds, within minutes, they said 500 people were killed. And that's what they reported. Come to find out later on that Israel, number one, didn't bomb the hospital, and number two, the hospital was bombed by one of the terrorist groups inside Gaza, and only about 12 or 15 people died. So it's these figures are ridiculous. Israel has said that they've killed about 9 to 10,000 people, most of them terrorists. So in this 30,000 deaths that are quoted in most of the media, they say that most of these people killed are children and women, which is also ridiculous. Where are the terrorists counted? The terrorists are not even taken into account. And one thing that we have to keep in mind is that most of the terrorists don't have, you don't see them in uniforms. And so this is including the children. They recruit children from a very tender age, and a lot of the children, a lot of these people that are fighting are children from the tender age of 14 on, and you can see, and it's been proven, but you can see videos. So you can Google it, summer camp, Hamas summer camps. You can Google this, and you will see children, kids, being trained to invade Israel, to kill Jews, to massacre, to do massacres, and to slaughter Jews, and then you'll see them being interviewed, and this is exactly what they want to do. So these people, so a lot of times when people see deaths in this war, a lot of these people are terrorists, but they're not counted as terrorists because they don't have uniforms. And a lot of these kids are terrorists. They have blood in their hands. And because they don't have a uniform, then they say, oh, children. But, you can also Google children sentenced to life in prisons. Google that in YouTube and listen to it for a while. And you'll see the life sentences that these kids are getting in YouTube. These are kids, but they've murdered people. And so you don't have you can't say, oh, poor kids, because they have murdered people. And it's the same thing in this case. A lot of these terrorist fighters are kids. So do you see them as children? Unfortunately, they are children, many of them at the age of 14. But they've been brainwashed, and they've been killing people, and they have blood in their hands. And so this is not mentioned in these figures that are given. Now, also, Israel has gone beyond what they're supposed to do. In one side, they are pressured into giving their enemy humanitarian aid. Thousands and thousands and thousands of trucks, tons of humanitarian aid has gone into Gaza, and Israel's accused of not letting enough humanitarian aid go into Gaza. And and then, which country in history do we see where the enemy is feeding, where a country is feeding their enemy while they're trying to destroy? So it's ridiculous. So Israel has gone beyond what they're supposed to do in order to destroy Hamas. And what happens is that because of all this pressure, Israel has had to kind of like put the soldiers in unnecessary danger, and they have done a lot in this war, because not only are they fighting, on ground, they're fighting terrorists that are hiding within the civilian population, like I already read. They're hiding within mosques and hospitals and UNRWA and all this stuff, but they're also hiding underground. Close to 500 kilometers of underground have been built, tunnels all over the place. It's like before the war, you would see Gaza with, a city with some terrorists in it, but now we see that Gaza is actually a military zone or terrorist zone with population on top of it, but an underground military zone. And so Israel has had to learn how to fight this war. They're fighting it underground and overground, like, in at the same time, and they've had a lot of success. They, I know people are not mentioning this, but the cost of deaths in this war are much lower than other wars. And I'm not justifying the deaths in Israel. All deaths are terrible, but it is war. And if you Google it, it's easy. You got your computer and you can Google deaths, war deaths in wars in Ukraine, in Syria, in Afghanistan, whatever war you'll see. And the amount of wars are ridiculous, including the United States they've cost a lot of deaths in a lot of these wars. So again, the figures are exaggerated, and you can't really go by what Hamas is, by these Hamas figures that are being given out. And overall, 604 IDF soldiers have been killed since October 7th. Now, since October 7th, the anti-Semitism has gone even more. It's gone up even more. But the protests didn't start, much later. The protest started on October 8th. You can see videos of protests since October 8th. And the fact that so many nations are protesting against Israel and in favor of Hamas is crazy. I can't get that through my head, because they don't know what they're protesting in favor of. These are terrorists that committed crazy crimes. And so all these protests in favor of Hamas is giving them like a pat on the back, is giving them like a belief that they got most of the world on their side, that they don't have to give in to the pressure of releasing the hostages. Releasing the release of the hostages is the most important thing here in Israel, along with destroying Hamas. So the anti-Semitism, you can see it has gone up in a ridiculous way. And the United States hasn't helped out much because at the beginning, they came, Biden came himself and Anthony Blinken came, and supposedly to show support for Israel, but immediately they gave thousands and thousands of dollars to the Gazans. But we know that anything that goes into Gaza is controlled by Hamas. So it was kind of like, oh, you here's some money for the massacre that you did. It's pretty much that's what it was, giving them a trophy for the massacre that they just did. They had just done in October 7th. And as the days went on, now we're into a point where we have we have a lot of pressure from the United States, where United States is demanding that Israel, cease and a total ceasefire in Gaza, and that Israel's not supposed to go into Rafah, and that they should do like targeted attacks into Rafah and not invade Rafah. But this is the last stronghold in Gaza, is Rafah, where most of the Hamas leaders, and the last stronghold of Hamas is inside Rafah. So Israel is compelled to go into Rafah in order to defeat Hamas. Otherwise, if Israel does not go into Rafah, it will be like a loss for Israel and victory for Hamas. And if Hamas is left standing, then we're going to have this going on and on every year like we have. We've had several wars with Hamas because they have been eliminated, and we now know what they're capable of doing, and we know what they want to do, what they want to repeat. And they've said it over and over again that they don't want a two-state solution. They want the whole thing. And this is the other pressure that United States wants Israel to accept a two-state solution, one state for the Arab Palestinians in Gaza and Israel, and of course, the Judea and Samaria, called the West Bank, also being part of Gaza. So there's a lot of pressure, and Israel is not interested in a two-state solution right now. It's the wrong time. We've realized that every time Israel gives up land, there's more bloodshed, there's more terrorism. And so the majority of Israel right now, they're not interested in a two-state solution, and neither are the Arabs, like I just told you. Also recommend that you see my previous video. I talked to you about Iran and the alert that we're in because of the attack on there was a bombing of the Iranian embassy inside Syria, and they assumed that it was Israel, and so they want to retaliate. They want to hit Israel back for that. They killed the leader, and so we're in alert. So please pray for that. And so this is what's been going on in Israel in the last 6 months. Now, also, before, I know this is going long already, but let me mention the negotiations. There is no agreement. There's been going on for a while, but there is no agreement because Hamas wants a complete ceasefire in Gaza, a complete withdrawal of IDF troops from Gaza, and a release of all prisoners of Israel in Israeli prisons. There's about 6,500 Arab prisoners inside Israeli prisoners, and these are terrorists that have blood in their hands. Like for instance, I just got the news that there was a terrorist that has been in Israeli prisons for many years, and he just died of cancer. But then I read up on him, and it was Walid, I think his name was, and uh, he and three other Arabs, they captured or abducted a young, about 19-year-old soldier that was back a long time ago, about maybe 20 years ago. I forgot the date now because I just read about it. And they captured this guy, this soldier, who was trying to catch a ride at a bus stop. And so Walid, hopefully that's his name, um, Gauge, what's the word? But he took his eyes out. He shot at his genitals, and then they tortured him also for a while, and eventually they killed him. So he was life. His sentenced to life in prison, and they've been demanding his release. But as you can tell, he had blood in his hands. So these are the type of prisoners that they want freed. I can tell you about other ones, but it's pretty much people that have killed other innocent Israelis. So these are the people that they want free. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, oh yeah, and recently there's been demonstrations around here in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, and so the demonstrations have started again, and some hostage families have joined them. But the majority of the hostage families are not in favor of these negotiations. So these are just a minority, but they have a loud voice because the media is on their side. Now, they're also accusing Israel of total destruction of Gaza. But here's one thing, and I'll conclude with this because this is long already. Israel is being accused of completely destroying Gaza. But what Israel does is they warn the area, they warn the Gazans where they're gonna invade or attack or throw bombs, or when they're gonna destroy a building. They send out leaflets to let them know where they're going first. So what Hamas does is, since they know where the attack is gonna be, Hamas goes in and plants bombs, booby traps, or anything to kill the soldiers when they're going to come in. And so this takes away the surprise of in a war. And so Israel does this in order to avoid the killing of innocent people. And so what the terrorists also do is they like I said, they put bombs and anything and explosives in all these houses and buildings. And so the terrorists will go from building to building, house to house, and when they do, they are not in uniform, like I already mentioned. So they look like they're civilians going from one area to the next, but they're actually terrorists. They're going from one building and they're shooting. They take the weapons that they've stored there, and then they go to another house or building or apartment building or whatever, and then they start shooting from there because they got weapons there. And so it's that's why the soldiers, when they go into Gaza, they have to go house to house, and most of them they have to destroy, because they found tunnels under a lot of these houses. They've even gone into children's rooms where they, inside the child's room, they found entrances to the tunnels. They've even lifted up a baby's bed, a child's bed. They lift it up, and it's the entrance to a tunnel. So, unfortunately, a lot of Gaza is destroyed, but there's a reason for it, and so this is what has been going on for 6 months, and so again, I call for your prayers, because we're under alert from an attack from Iran. We're under attacking from the northern border. We're under attack from the Houthis in Yemen from the south, and we have attacks from Syria, and we also have Judea and Samaria, where there's like a whole bunch of issues. Thank God that Ramadan will be over on Tuesday, and we have the pressure from the United States. God is in control of above all this, and that's what I believe. And otherwise, this nation would have been destroyed a long time ago. But anyway, thank you for your prayers, and shalom, shalom from Jerusalem.